Most people call me Lena. My full name's Lena Reyes, but nobody's used that in years. Not since I left the old town behind. I'm 34 now, living in a high-rise overlooking the heart of a city that never really learned how to rest. My apartment has clean lines, soft light, and the kind of stillness I used to mistake for loneliness. I've got a job most folks wouldn't believe. Senior systems analyst at a global tech firm, and a paycheck that finally matches the hours I've poured into becoming someone no one thought I could be. But no matter how high up you go, the past always knows how to climb. If this opening already has your heart racing or your mind spinning, go ahead and hit that like button. Share it with someone who's lived through something similar. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Because trust me, it only gets deeper from here. That evening, October's breath was warm against the glass. I'd just gotten in from work, shoes kicked to the side, sleeves rolled up. The kitchen filled with a scent of cumin and lentils, my small rebellion against takeout fatigue. Outside, the sky burned that particular shade of orange that makes even the pavement glow. Then it came. 3 sharp knocks. Not tentative. Not friendly. Each one a cold question pressed against the door. When I opened it, time fell sideways. There she was. My mother. The woman who vanished 2 decades ago. Smiling like she never left. Her smile was too wide, stretched like something practiced in a mirror. She didn't speak at first, just stared past me into my home, eyes flicking from bookshelf to lamp like she was cataloging valuables. Standing just behind her was a tall boy, maybe 17, shoulders slumped, face lit by a phone screen he didn't bother to look up from. "This is Javier," she said, motioning to him. "Your brother." Half-brother, technically. Stranger entirely. Javier gave a lazy nod without pausing whatever game or message had his attention. His earbuds stayed in. "Magdalena Mija," my mother said, reaching forward like we were the kind of people who hugged. "It's been too long." I didn't move. My breath locked in my throat. Her voice was sugar-coated rust, sweet, but corroded by something older, something sour. She smelled expensive. Floral perfume laced with a ghost of cigarettes and poor choices. They stepped in before I said yes, like the door opening had been invitation enough. She settled into my space like she'd never been gone. Javier dropped onto the cream-colored couch with his sneakers still on, leaving scuffed tracks on fabric I'd worked 2 jobs to afford. And just like that, my past made itself at home. I stood, watching. She sat like she belonged, legs crossed, fingers laced, her eyes roaming over my living room like it was an exhibit in a museum she'd once owned. Javier didn't even pretend to care. He sprawled deeper into the couch, thumbs moving across the screen with mechanical indifference. My mother, Isabel, but she'd always insisted on being called Mama like it was a title, let her gaze linger on a photo shelf. She paused on one in particular. My father-me graduation day. His hands on my shoulders, both of us grinning like we'd outrun the world. "You've done well," she said, smoothing the wrinkles from her silk sleeves. "They told me you had a good job now. Good money. Straight to it. No hesitation. Like honesty had ever been her currency." Then came the real reason. She leaned forward, her voice soft, practiced, almost reverent. "Javier's starting at a private academy. Tuition's high. We just need a little help to get through. 3,000 a month should do it. That's nothing for you, right?" I didn't speak. Couldn't. Because her words, smooth and rehearsed, landed like broken glass in my chest. This wasn't a visit. It was a transaction. My silence must have looked like hesitation. To her that meant weakness. Opportunity. Javier finally looked up, grinned without humor. "This place is kinda small for someone raking it in," he said, gaze flicking across my ceiling like he expected gold trim. Then he shrugged, returned to scrolling. "You could do better." And blinked. Not in disbelief, but in restraint. My jaw ached from clenching. My heartbeat thudded behind my ribs like a warning drum. Isabel kept going, her voice sliding through excuses wrapped in silk. Rising bills, tight times, her sacrifice. She mentioned my salary twice. smiled like she was proud of it. But her eyes never left my face. Watching, measuring, waiting for the crack. "Family helps family," she said with a breathless kind of conviction. I almost laughed. Family. That word. From her. This was the woman who left when I was 12. Who stopped calling before I learned how to drive. The woman who vanished with promises still drying in the air. And now she sat in my living room, counting my achievements like they belonged to her. I stared at the woman who gave me life. And realized, she'd only come to see what it was worth. I didn't answer right away. Couldn't. My mind had cracked open, flipping through memories like brittle index cards. The empty seats at school plays, birthdays marked only by silence, the clumsy cursive on those rare, late postcards. "Hope you're doing okay." Nothing more. And now she was here, asking for $60,000 like it was spare change. "How did you even find me?" asked voice tight. Isabel waved it off. "An old friend, social media, you know. Word gets around." Vague. Intentional. She was lying. Javier didn't care. He stretched, yawned, then leaned forward like we were just catching up. "Also, my dorm sucks. And I need a car. Something decent. Like a Mustang." Mustang. He said it like he was naming a sandwich. Isabel nodded, complicit. "And his phone's acting up. We just figured, with your income." With my income. My success wasn't a source of pride for them. It was a vault waiting to be cracked open. I said nothing. They saw it as hesitation. But it was fury. They hadn't come for forgiveness. They came to collect. Not love. Not connection. And I was just the doorway they were trying to pry off its hinges. "Help out," she repeated, like the words were a gift instead of a demand. Help out. Like I hadn't already given every scrap of myself just to survive. Like I hadn't spooned out the last of the rice for my father and pretended I wasn't hungry. Like I hadn't worked 2 jobs through college while she played house in someone else's town. I sank into a chair. Not from surrender, but because my knees had begun to tremble. "I'll need time to think about it," I said, careful with every syllable. For the first time her mask slipped. Just a flicker in her eyes. She hadn't expected resistance. She thought the little girl she left behind would still be sitting inside me, waiting to be chosen. Javier scoffed. "It's not that deep. You're just stingy." They left soon after. Her hug clung like perfume and guilt. "You'll see," she whispered, lips brushing my ear. "We just want to be close again." But even as the door clicked shut behind them, I felt it. This wasn't about being close. This was about getting in. And I was the vault they'd come to pick. The next morning I agreed to meet them again. One last time. Public cafe downtown. Bright windows. Crowds. Witnesses. I picked the place on purpose. Somewhere she couldn't twist the mood without eyes watching. Isabel arrived dressed for sympathy. Soft makeup, clean lines, and a practiced smile that held no cracks. She reached for my hand the moment she sat down. "Lena, baby," she murmured, brushing my knuckles. "I missed you. You have no idea." I pulled my hand back, gentle but firm. "Why now?" asked. She blinked, like the question startled her. But then the monologue began. "Your father made it impossible," she said, voice trembling in all the right places. "He blocked my number. Told lies. Poisoned you against me. Tried media. I really did." She said it like a script, like a bedtime story. But I remembered my father sitting up late, porch light burning well past midnight, waiting for her shadow. The pancakes he made for dinner when our fridge was empty. The calculator he bought for my math class, even when rent was already overdue. And with one breath, she erased him. Isabel was trying to rewrite history, and make herself the hero of a story she hadn't bothered to live. Her voice softened into something resembling sorrow. "I've struggled, Lena. You don't know the hell I've been through." And then, like flipping a switch, she leaned in with those syrupy eyes and dropped the hook. "Javier's future is at stake. We need your help." Before I could respond, Javier jumped in, mouth full of gum and entitlement. "I need a car," he said, grinning. Something nice. Can't be out here catching the damn bus. His smirk was a spotlight. This wasn't a plea. It was a performance. And I was the mark. I stared at him. And her. A car? Asked voice low. A Mustang, Javier clarified. And a new phone. The one I've got's trash. Isabel reached for my hand again. Sweetheart, we're family. You've got so much now. Can't you share just a little? That word, family, landed in my gut like a knife. Where was that family when I was scraping mildew off bathtubs in strangers' homes for lunch money? When I was studying under broken streetlights because we couldn't keep the lights on? Her smile faltered just slightly when I didn't respond. She thought her absence had become a blank slate. But I still remembered the script she'd left me to survive. I worked for everything I have, I said, each word a stone placed between us. Dad and I had nothing after you left. Isabel's lips thinned. Her eyes darkened just for a moment before she pasted the smile back on. You're so selfish, she snapped, voice sharp beneath the honey. I gave you life, and this is how you repay me. A cafe buzz faded into static. My chest tightened. Not from guilt. No, I'd burned through that years ago. But from anger so old it had calcified in my bones. I saw flashes. My father slumped over the kitchen table after another 12-hour shift. My hands raw from cleaning, my body aching from double shifts, my mind begging for sleep while I clung to straight A's. All of it. Just to claw our way out of the hole she left us in. Javier scoffed under his breath. Figures you'd be like this. He was right about you. Not Dad. Not to him. There was no bridge between us. Just a long, rotting rope that snapped under the weight of his words. I stood up. Chair scraping loud against tile. I don't owe you anything, I said. But they weren't finished. And neither was the past. I should have walked away then. Cut the thread clean. Blocked their numbers. Locked the door on that chapter forever. But hope is a strange kind of hunger. Even after all the damage, some part of me still craved closure. Or at least an honest goodbye. So when Isabel texted later that afternoon, "Can we just talk?" One last time, I agreed. They arrived at my apartment again. No apologies in hand, no humility in their faces. Isabel's smile was stretched tighter now. Her voice soaked in artificial sweetness. We just want to talk, baby. Javier stood beside her, slouched, scrolling. Same cracked phone he'd just finished complaining about. I let them in. Maybe I needed to see it through. Maybe I wanted to hear whatever excuse she'd wrap around the truth next. Or maybe I already knew what was coming. Isabel made a performance of pretending to care, commenting on my throw pillows, asking about my work, my hours, my benefits. So, do they pay you well? She asked like she was asking about the weather. You get stock options. Bonuses. Kept my answers short. Dry. My stomach had started to twist. Her nods were slow, calculating. And when I stepped into the kitchen for water, everything changed. I was gone for less than a minute. But when I came back, Javier was at my desk. My laptop was open, screen glowing, keyboard under his fingers. I froze in the doorway. What are you doing? He didn't even flinch. Just turned his head slowly, eyes half-lidded. Chill. Just checking it out. I crossed the room in 2 strides. My heart dropped into my stomach. The screen showed my banking dashboard. Tabs opened to password recovery pages. My investment accounts, savings, loans. Every door I'd ever locked, wide open. Behind him, Isabel stood with her arms crossed, expression unreadable. We were just curious, she said softly, like that made it better. You've got so much. Why hide it? Her voice peeled away the last illusion. They hadn't come for connection. They came to break in. I yanked the laptop away, hands shaking. You don't touch my things, I said, voice tight, barely above a whisper. But inside I was screaming. Javier scoffed. Isabel didn't blink. In that moment I saw them for what they truly were. Not family. Not visitors. Thieves. No. I was the prize. I dropped into my desk chair, fingers flying across the keyboard, pulling up system logs. 3 failed password attempts. Browser history littered with financial portals. My bank, my credit union, my retirement accounts. Even my tax software. All opened while I was pouring water. Then I saw it. An email still sitting open in a separate tab. Subject: Lena's new job info. It had been forwarded from my father's email address. Sent to Isabel's. Inside was everything: my job title, employer, salary, even my office location. Details I'd shared with my dad months ago. He was so proud then, voice glowing through the phone. I told him everything. He'd promised he wouldn't tell a soul. And he hadn't. They had hacked him. I stood so fast my chair rolled back into the wall. You hacked Dad's email. Isabel's eyes flickered. Paused too long. A silence that told the truth. Then suddenly her voice turned sharp. Cruel. Your father's a failure, Lena. You really think he raised you into all of this? She gestured around my apartment like it was dirt. Like it hadn't been built with my blood. I had to know how you ended up here. Her mouth twisted. All that potential. Wasted on him. Her words struck like a slap. Sharp, sudden, and meant to leave a mark. Javier chuckled from the couch. Yeah, he's a joke. You're better than that. My vision blurred. Not from tears, but from rage so deep it felt ancestral. Slowly I stepped forward, grip tightening around my phone. You're leaving, I said, voice flat. Or I'm calling the police. Isabel's mask cracked. You'd call the cops on your own mother. Javier shifted uncomfortably but wouldn't meet my eyes. He was bold behind a screen, but not in the face of consequence. You hacked my father, I said. Tried to break into my accounts. That's not a visit. That's a crime. Still they didn't move. So I unlocked my phone and dialed. My thumb hovered over the green button. That was all it took. Isabel grabbed Javier's arm and stormed to the door. You're making a mistake, Lena, she hissed, voice venom now. You'll regret this. But I'd finally stopped begging her to stay. The door slammed behind them like a verdict. And I bolted it, deadbolt, chain, everything. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from fury. I wasn't their daughter. I was a target. And they just crossed the line. I sat back at my desk, heart pounding, the glow of the laptop casting pale light across the room. 3 failed password attempts. Recovery emails queued up. Every tab on my browser was a window into what they'd tried to take. They hadn't just come to ask. They came to steal. I knew the signs. This was my world, my field. I'd spent years protecting systems, outsmarting breaches. But I never expected to become the breach. My phone buzzed. His voice came through the line like a bomb, warm and steady. You okay, baby girl? No, I whispered, throat tight. She hacked your email. She used your name. She tried to get into everything. There was silence. Then a long, heavy sigh. That's Isabel, he murmured. Always twisting truth like it owes her. He told me he'd sensed something was off. Missed emails, password resets, but thought it was just tech trouble. Now he knew better. And so did I. This wasn't just about me. She'd stolen his trust too. Used it like a crowbar to pry open our lives. The woman who once promised forever had come back to loot the ashes. And I was done letting her burn me. The next morning I called a lawyer. Mark Doyle. Recommended by a friend who'd used him in a messy tenant dispute. He was sharp, methodical, no patience for drama. Perfect. I laid it all out. The surprise visit, the financial ask, the hacked email, the unauthorized login attempts. My voice shook at first, but by the end it was steel. This is serious, Mark said, already jotting notes. And unfortunately, more common than you'd think. We'll start with a restraining order. Create a paper trail. Lock it down now, before it escalates. I stared out the window while he spoke, the city skyline blurring behind a sudden swell of emotion. Blood might tie us, but it doesn't bind us. Not when it turns on you. Filing the restraining order felt like drawing a sword with one hand and shielding my childhood with the other. We collected everything. Screenshots, logs, the email from Dad's account, the login attempts, text, even the audio clip I'd quietly recorded of her asking for money. When the judge reviewed the evidence, her eyes didn't waver. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was predatory. 3 weeks later, it was official. Isabel and Javier Reyes were legally banned from contacting me. But the past wasn't finished yet. I thought the restraining order would be the end. Clean cut. But people like Isabel don't vanish. They slither. A month later, on a Thursday night heavy with rain, my phone buzzed. Bank alert. Suspicious activity detected. I sat bolt upright. My heart already knew. Someone had tried to transfer $10,000 from my savings to an unrecognized account. Two-factor authentication stopped it cold. Thank God. But the damage wasn't just in the attempt. It was in the message. She wasn't done. Not even court orders could curb her hunger. She didn't just want help. She wanted access. Unlimited, unquestioned, untraceable. I stared at the screen, my living room silent except for the drip of rain at the windows. My laptop still glowed from where I'd been working, its light suddenly too bright, too exposed. Called Mark. He answered on the second ring. We'll file a court violation immediately, he said. If she so much as breathes in your direction again, it'll be contempt. I nodded even though he couldn't see. But nothing he said could settle the hollowness in my chest. This wasn't just identity theft. It was memory theft. She'd stolen my past. And now she was trying to steal my peace. Grief doesn't always come from death. Sometimes it comes from realizing the person you loved never really existed the way you needed them to. I sat in the dark that night, the hum of the fridge the only sound, fingers curled around a mug of untouched tea. I hadn't cried. Not yet. I think I was waiting for the weight to settle fully. When my phone rang again, it was from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Hours later I listened. Lena, it's Aunt Rosa. The voice hit me like a forgotten lullaby. I hadn't heard it in years. Not since I was a teenager, hiding in the kitchen while the grown-ups argued behind closed doors. I heard what Isabel did, she continued. I just wanted you to know you're not crazy. She's been like this her whole life. Rosa. The sister who left home at 17. The one Isabel used to say was dead to her. I called her back. Her voice carried history, heavy and honest. I tried to protect you and your daddy, she said. But Isabel, she always knew how to twist a story. Turn the truth into something useful. She wasn't surprised by the restraining order. No one who really knew Isabel would be. Rosa didn't mince words. She didn't sugarcoat the past. She's always been that way, baby, she said. Lying, borrowing, taking. She told one cousin I was dead to get money for a fake funeral. Told another you were unstable so they wouldn't ask about you. She's not sick, she's calculated. Her voice held no bitterness, only clarity. Then Rosa told me something I hadn't known. Isabel had done this before. Used her children's names, histories, even medical records, to squeeze money from anyone who remembered her as someone worth saving. I have proof, she said. Emails. Letters. Even some texts she forgot I still had. And suddenly, all the missing puzzle pieces fell into place. Not just about Isabel's betrayal, but the reason it always felt personal. She's not after your money, Lena, Rosa said. She's after your light. You broke cycles she never wanted broken. That's why she hates you and needs you, all at once. Those words sank deep like water through parched soil. She hates you and she needs you. That explained everything. Isabel hadn't come back to be a mother. She came back to make sure I never stopped bleeding from the wounds she left behind. But I was already healing. And I had no intention of going back. The silence after Isabel's departure wasn't empty. It was sacred. For the first time in years, my days weren't shadowed by dread or old wounds reopening at the sound of a text. Word traveled through the grapevine. Isabel and Javier had moved again. Some smaller town, fewer questions, cheaper rent. Most of the family cut ties. Even Javier's college roommate filed a report, Something about a stolen laptop. No one missed them. And for the first time I could breathe without bracing. That's when I started therapy. Dr. Anika Rowe. Warm eyes. Braided hair that reached her shoulders. A voice like still water. "You've been parenting yourself since you were a child," she said in our third session. "You never had the luxury of falling apart." She was right. I'd built a fortress from success, sealed every crack with accolades and late nights. But grief finds the tiniest fissure and pours in. I began to let it. Slowly. I started journaling again. Cooked Sunday meals the way Dad used to. Pans sizzling, music humming in the background. I walked at dawn and didn't feel chased. Healing didn't come like a sunrise. It came like planting seeds in burned soil, and waiting patiently for green to push through. I wasn't healing to forget her. I was healing to remember me. And in that remembering, something powerful bloomed. Not vengeance, not resentment, but purpose. I launched the Reyes Foundation with the first bonus I didn't need. A scholarship for teens like I'd once been. Raised on grit, dreaming on borrowed time. I emailed friends, shared my story. Rosa sent it to her church. My coworker Joy designed the website in a weekend. We got 3 applications the first day. And I read every one like scripture. Malik, working the overnight shift at a gas station, building code in the back office. Tasha, saving tips from waitressing to cover her EMT exam. Elon, writing novels on her cracked phone between babysitting gigs. They weren't asking for rescue, just for a chance to run. And I gave it. The more I gave, the less heavy my past became. 1 year later, I stood before a crowded auditorium, the Reyes Foundation banner behind me. Students filled the seats, shoulders squared, eyes bright. "My name is Lena Reyes," I said. "And I'm not here because someone saved me." Paused, letting it land. "I'm here because I saved myself. And now it's your turn." And this time the door behind me stayed closed.